أقوم عليه مش حيقدر لي ما بتقدر على قلبي مش حتقدر لي جيشك فاق قلبي مش حتكسرني جيشك فاق قلبي مش حتكسرني
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm so glad you're here with us today. I would like to acknowledge that most of us are on land that's stolen, depending where we're tuning in, from Palestine to Turtle Island to the old empires in Europe. There's struggles against displacement and forgetting everywhere. York University is on land that's been claimed by many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, the Huron-Wendat First Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Métis Nation of Ontario. And today, as we talk about abolishing the prison industrial complex, we remember that the PIC, along with the academic industrial complex, arrived on Turtle Island on the same ships that brought settler colonialism, slavery, transphobia, genocide. And we remember that the abolition of the prison requires the abolition of those racist and capitalist systems that the prison and the university were always meant to uphold. So I have the pleasure to introduce you to an amazing collective of activists and scholars. My name is Jin Haritawan. I'm an associate professor at the Faculty of Environmental and Urban Change at York University. This event is brought to you by students from a master's course that I have the honor and pleasure of teaching. It's called New Social Movements. Students have met every day this month to think about what it means to do activist scholarship that is in the service of communities, how to build community inside and outside our classroom that's supportive, that treats students, faculty, and non-academic community members, especially those of us who are racialized, queer, trans, or otherwise sore thumbs in the elitist hallways of the institution, as valuable three-dimensional human beings that deserve to take up space and resources and how to share our learning and give back to community, which is how a lot of you ended up here today. We want you all to join in the conversation after the panel. So if you'd like to ask a question, you can do so at any time. If you look at the bottom of your screen, there should be a Q&A box. And if you click on it, the Ask a Question window pops up and you can type it. You can type your questions and we'll select a bunch of questions that fit in well with the turn of the conversation. So we'll try to answer as many as possible, but apologies in advance if we don't get around to answering all of them. And we'd like to welcome you into our classroom community. And we also ask that you are thoughtful in how you make space and take space and recognize and celebrate the labor of Black trans women that we're learning from all the time, but that is often seen as disposable. And this is exactly the subject of Moka Dawkins' film, Surviving the Block, that we are here to discuss today. And we're honored and delighted to have her here with us. So if we were meeting in person right now, this would be the time for our standing ovation. It's awkward online. Welcome, Moka. We're so thrilled to have you. Thank you for joining us, for making time. I first saw you, you won't remember me because I'm not famous, but of course I remember you give a keynote at a Transgender Day of Remembrance that was organized by Freedom School, by a program for Black preschoolers and elementary schoolers that's led by Leroy Newbold and Uda Robinson and others. And you gave this speech to a bunch of 2 to 10-year-olds, breaking down prison abolition to them in a way that was accessible to them. That ended on, don't become police officers when you're big. And I'm sure they all remember that. And you'd just been released. And I remember how amazed we were that you found the strength to talk to our kids and lift up your communities at a time when you'd just gone through the worst. And as it says in Moka's bio, she is a Black trans freedom fighter who does all this while still being targeted by police and courts, partly because of who she is, but partly because she continues to stand up for Black, trans, queer, and non-binary communities and opens her mouth for abolitionist issues and causes like Defund the Police, Black Lives Matter, and prisoners and sex worker rights organizations like the San and Maggie's. Moka's accomplishments in her advocacy for trans prison reforms have led her into a life of humanitarian community activism. She currently works for the University of Toronto and Ryerson University as a research and development specialist alongside her community work. And you can watch her documentary, Surviving the Block, on Our TV. I know a few of us joined us for the screening yesterday. And you can help Moka continue to do her amazing community work by contributing to her GoFundMe campaign, which we've posted all over the Facebook event, and we'll keep dropping reminders to you throughout this event today. And we'll welcome you properly in a minute. But first, let me also introduce our beautiful student organizers. So big thank you, Susanna, Bria, Century, Alan, Snezhana, Jenny, and Joe for all the work and the really thoughtful organizing you've done to make today a good experience for everyone. I'm incredibly proud of you and grateful and appreciative for everything you've done. So the team has chosen 2 amazing activist scholars as panel moderators. I keep learning so much from both of you, and I can't wait to see you in conversation with Moka. Jay Garcia is a fat, queer, Latinx community-based organizer with a passion for nurturing communities of care and for transformative healing justice that we've all benefited from so much throughout this class, as they've held space on numerous occasions for us to breathe and to ground. Working towards the MSW at York, Jay is eager to center anti-oppressive and intersectional praxis to redress the harm experienced by service users and frontline helpers who don't fit the status quo in nonprofit and post-secondary settings, which are inherently colonial, white, and ableist as fuck. With rewritten survivor and healing narratives of their own, including their recent resettlement from Edmonton to Toronto, Jay remains bitter, but eager to partake in collective action in visualizing and working towards futures that celebrate the marginalized and abject in meaningful ways. Thank you, Jay, for holding space today. The second moderator is Kafia Abdul Kader. She is a fat, queer Black woman, a first-generation Canadian Black feminist, artist, amazing writer, and a community organizer who has actively worked with various diasporic communities in the Dixon area, York region, and Peel region. Kafia is an incredibly promising master's student in environmental studies and is specializing in the racialization of space, digital culture, and food justice. She believes that food is a political tool that can dismantle social inequalities, colonial institutions, and foster racial liberation. Outside of school, she is a pop culture and Afrofuturism fanatic who loves indulging and critically analyzing music, film, and television. And we've had a taste of that in numerous excellent presentations and coursework. It's a pleasure to have you all here in conversation today. So over to you, Kafia.
Hi, thank you so much for your introduction, Jen. I'm going to be going over the community agreements. We have spent the last 3 weeks sharing space and building a community of reciprocity, support, and peer-to-peer mentorship. And one thing that's been amazing is on the first day of class, Jen asked us to come up with a community agreement. And throughout the course, we've stayed true to these agreements. I would like to reiterate 2 community agreements for this conversation. In our course, we try to create a space where everyone can aspire to be their whole 3-dimensional self. Please do not feel as though you must compartmentalize yourself. I see you, I hear you, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be here. And in this course, we believe that everyone should show up as they are and allow others to do the same. I believe this is the most important community agreement, and hopefully this sentiment shines through during our conversation with the legendary Moka Dawkins. Today, we honor Moka. We choose love instead of hate. We choose desire instead of damage. We choose abolition instead of being complicit. Now, without further ado, I will pass it on to my amazing co-host, Jay Garcia.
Thank you so much, Kapia. And we'll link those community agreements to folks in the chat real soon, so you have a look. In terms of just some brief comments I want to share before we dive in and welcome our beautiful, stunning, and after watching the film yesterday, I realized one of the most hilarious people on this planet, our guest of honor, Moka Dawkins. I just want to share briefly here in reflection with everyone in attendance in terms of what it means to be activist scholars, but also what it means to be scholars, period. We know time and time again, as QTBIPoC folks in this room and beyond, that research seeks to cause harm. Research does not seek oftentimes to uplift our communities. Rather, it seeks to harm us or to exploit our labors, our traumas, and there are too many historical cases of this in the history of so-called Canada, such as the tuberculosis crisis with Inuit folks, with residential school systems and eugenics, and as well as the ongoing dealings with the HIV/AIDS epidemic that still we find our communities oftentimes exploited for the sake of big pharma money and Canadian so-called re-perpetuations of multiculturalism, we're welcoming, we're polite, etc. But we choose to stand against those narratives and to reassert different narratives in events like these, following the work of folks like Eve Tuck and striving away from damage-based research, which seeks to do exactly what I just shared, but rather seeking a light towards desire-based research, which we follow a lot with folks like Adrienne Miri Brown in Pleasure Activism, where we seek to uplift fellow voices and center the voices who have done this labor, who we owe a great depth of gratitude towards for honoring us not only with our knowledge, but I hate to say this, as a QTBIPoC identified person myself, to be in this very room, to see a livelihood past the age of 30 as a non-binary person, and of course to share space with folks, and not to label Moka herself, but with folks like Moka, who has shared her tremendous story in her documentary, who is alive and has survived great deals of violence and continues to, right? This is not popcorn feature film. This is real life. And this is a conversation that we're here to have, but we're also here to enjoy ourselves and to honor the pleasure that we have to converse and dialogue with Moka. So other than that, in terms of setting intentions for the event, Mocha is here. Kafia has embraced us with community agreements. So without a further ado, please join me in kind of whatever ways. I know we can't see each other on video, but a round of applause for welcoming the incredible, the honorable Moka Dawkins here with us. Hello, Mocha. How are you?
Hi, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. It's a nice thing to wake up to all that love in the morning, you know?
I mean, we're so lucky to wake up with you, Mocha. And in another conversation, we could almost call this Wake Up with Mocha. But you've already got a great podcast called Tea Time Tips with Mocha. So we're going to be here. We'll support and celebrate all the love of Mocha today. But how are you doing this morning? You know, before we kind of dive into some of the questions and other things, just how are you? How's it going, girl?
You know, I'm doing a lot better. I woke up, had my first cup of coffee, had my shower, so I'm feeling a little bit more awake than what I was a little earlier. But yeah, I'm really just working on my community initiatives that I have with different organizations and universities throughout Ontario, and just staying busy and focused that way.
Amazing. And before we dive into the film and just something, you know, where we get to build a bit of rapport, and also because you are a stunning human being who also is a human being and not just someone who should be pedestalized, I want to ask you, you know, as of late, what is your favorite pump up jam? Or better yet, what's your favorite song to twerk along to as of late? I want to know.
As of lately,
Sure, yeah.
one song. Do you guys know Spice? She's
Oh.
a dance.
Yes.
Of course, yes.
She has this new song with Shaggy and Sean Paul called Gode.
Oh, I'm not ready.
Yeah, so you haven't heard it?
Not yet. No, I haven't.
Oh, it's on YouTube. That is my jam right there. It gets me awake and gives me all that energy that I need.
Thank you so much for embracing us with that. We'll definitely have to look into it. I know one of my favorite Spice songs is Inches, and that video where she's just showing all the wigs, you know? Oh, stunning. So thank you so much. I mean, I guess, you know, we'll get into the film trailer viewing right away. And I do want to warn folks that, of course, handle yourselves with as much care as possible. Surround yourselves with as much positive energy as you need. This trailer is a bit hard. And again, this is real life. We have Mocha here with us. But I just want to ask Mocha, right before we show the trailer, was there anything you wanted to say either about the film, how you're doing, or anything before we dive right in? This is still your conversation at the same time.
I just want to say, you know, for those who have real sensitive emotions, if you didn't see the film last night, I don't know what clip is going to play right now, so I just want to give a little warning. There is some, for me, it was very gruesome. So there are some images and scenes in that sense. So that's all I'll say until we watch it, and then we'll come back to it.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Mocha. I'll allow my colleagues Susanna and Alan to play the clip for us, and the rest of us can hide our videos in the meantime.
There is growing concern in this country and fear about deadly attacks against transgender Americans, particularly trans women of color.
Last year, a transgender person was murdered every 31 hours worldwide. In Ontario alone, 20% of transgender people have been sexually or physically assaulted.
It is a persecuted identity. It is an identity that often suffers the worst physical and mental violence.
Black trans women, the highest statistics in terms of trans women killed, whether stabbed, shot, beaten, assaulted.
We will not stop fighting until the senseless murders of Black trans women end. Globally, of the people murdered over the last decade, 61% of those were reported to have been sex workers.
I've seen my clients turn on a drop of a hat, and it was a very scary moment when someone's grabbing you by the neck and it's like,
They are seen as dispensable. Here.
Also, most trans people involved in sex work are being mistreated and finding themselves in very difficult situations, and Moka is a very good example of that.
Emergency, do you require police, fire, or ambulance?
What I see is blood everywhere. Very gruesome.
Jay thought that, yeah, I can do what I want with Moka and hurt her, and there would be no repercussions of that.
He lashed out at her and stabbed her and maybe was going to kill her.
All right. And so I want to honor and give Moka and the rest of us a moment to just kind of take a breather in that. We have our lovely colleague, Sejana, who is going to ground us back in to the conversation with a brief breathing exercise that I'm so grateful she gets to do. Sejana, I'm going to pass the floor on to you. And you're also a good friend of Moka's, aren't you? Feel free to introduce yourself and for you two to say hi to one another for a brief moment.
Hey, girl.
Hey, I'm so happy you are here with us. It's so great to see your face. You look amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. So do you.
Thank you. So we just wanted to take a second to just kind of ground ourselves, because I know that there's a lot of heavy conversation today. There's a lot of things that may come up for people, a lot of emotions. So I want to invite everyone to just take some space to really kind of ground ourselves in how we feel we can be in a safe space. So if you feel comfortable, you can, close your eyes, or you can turn off your video camera as well for any of the panelists if you want, just to kind of get in your own space. And for everybody else, just find a comfortable position where you can kind of sit in, maybe keep your gaze down. And let's just start by taking a few deep breaths. And let's just start by inhaling together and exhaling together. And we'll do this 2 more times, and you can make a sound if you need. You can just let it go. Release it. You can also maybe shake your body a bit as you release. Just let it go. And let's do it one more time. Just for a few seconds, I just want you to notice and feel your own hands, your own palms. Maybe they're touching, maybe they're resting against the table or your legs, or maybe they're holding something. And I just want you to feel them, feel the temperature. Let them relax in whatever position they are. See if you can just let the gravity kind of pull them down and anchor them. Let them feel comfortable. If you want, you can even have them touch each other, hold your hands together in whatever position feels comfortable. Sometimes when we hold our hands together, it's like giving ourselves a little hug. Just for the next 10 seconds, just really enjoy the feeling of your hands touching each other in a relaxed space. And anytime throughout the conversation today, if you start to feel a little overwhelmed or heavy, you just come back to your hands touching each other, come back to that feeling of nourishing yourself, of self-love, in which we can ground when things get a little intense. Let's just take another deep breath, and then on the exhale, open our eyes, and we can come back into our event. I'll pass it back to Kafia and Jay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sejana. Super appreciate everything you have to share. I learn so much from you continuously every day, and it's such an honor to share space with you. Thank you so much. Um, so Mocha, Kafia, and I, as you're aware, are going to have, our own kind of dialogue, and we hope in a way that we, as fellow cutie BIPOC folks, so queer, trans, Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, empower here in conversation. And, we want to acknowledge that we are allowed to show up as our own full dimensional selves, and also keeping in mind that sometimes there's also an audience even if we can't see it, so let them have it, right? We're here to educate as well as to empower. But I wanted to kind of still focusing a bit on the film, but still giving us an opportunity to kind of continue with that kind of grounded energy that Sejana had just put us through so tenderly. I want to ask everyone to think about, which I noticed in the film and were some of my most gleeful moments to bear witness to, was you, Mocha, surrounded in community, when you are with the fellow folks who embrace you upon exiting the prison, at U of T, at different events. And I just want everyone to tenderly think about, who is in their community, whether you've done a pod mapping activity for me and Mingus or not, or you're thinking about one or two people. I just want everyone in the room here to think about, those that you adore, who are your chosen fam, who invest in your well-being and your energy. And with that in mind, Mocha, I'm going to ask you this question if you're okay with it. I want to know, who is Mocha according to your community? I know you have stated throughout the film, the crown, the police, institutions, who they say I am is not who I am. And I just want to give you back that floor here with us. And we're just going to start off right the bat. Who is Moka Dawkins? And what would your friends, your tender community say, about you? How would they describe you?
So I would describe myself. Moka Dawkins is fun-loving, humorous, energetic, loves to, give as much as she can to her community. Love to see smiles on everybody's faces. It's like, it's weird to explain a bundle of joy, but that's just what I am. And how I hate to speak for other people, but what I can say in reference to what I've heard my community quote about me from my work and other engagements that I have done, and as well as from the Justice for Mocha campaign, is, they have, came at me with very loving and kind-hearted words, as calling me inspiring, a great motivator, a leader, a compassionate person. There was a lot of kind things in a lot of different areas and a lot of different places where people had said a lot of beautiful things to me. So those are just some of the things that stuck to the heart.
Thank you for your beautiful response. And honestly, that film had me laughing with you, crying with you, and, desiring prison abolition as well as screaming ACAB. Jay and I were talking about it the entire night. And I'm wondering, what do you hope people will take away from this film, if anything?
The knowledge of really understanding, seeing. I really went through that situation, and the reason why I decided to do the video is because I wanted people to see it and to see how institutions play a role in Black genetic trauma, and they're confused and they don't want to understand our reactions to certain situations, but they don't understand the history in which, you know, that institution alone has impacted that genetic influence towards our culture. So it's very how I see it in a very, like I'm wording it in an academic term to type say, because, you know, obviously I'm speaking through a university, but in a humane sense, you know, I just really wanted, you know, people to see the pain, you know, Black pain. People like, you know, white people always try to relate themselves to situations, but that's not you being in Black pain. That's not you being, you know, someone's telling you to be held accountable for, you know, the death of someone's life. That's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? For me, that was ridiculous to me, especially in the fact that, you know, I was the one who was attacked first and fighting for my life. This was like a self-defense situation. So to really, you know, having to really have no choice but to engage in the supremic institution, and to actually, you know, see the powers in which they use to, you know, dismantle community. You know, my case is a very high, you know, factual relevance in that matter when it comes to looking at communities, because the judge, when it came to motions alone, the judge wouldn't even let me have a professional expert come in to explain, you know, the dangers and the diverse situations that minority people of color who are sex workers experience. You know, he kept shutting down the doors purposely, and then, you know, manipulated the jury into their conviction. Because what nobody knows is that during the trial, the jury had came back with questions, because I had called up the Crown at one point in time, because the Crown was trying to tell me what they're like, what were they saying? I can't remember what they said, but I had called them out and I had told them to play the whole statement, because they had asked me a question pertaining to my statement at that point. And I was like, listen, like, I see what you're trying to do, so play the whole statement, don't play half of it, right? So the jury had even came back at one point in time asking for more information, asking like when this was like said, when Moka had said this, this information wasn't put into evidence, like why, you know, they came and they were asking because they want to see, they were curious, because even though it's weird, because it's like how the system works is like they put your, like when it came to the video disclosure of me speaking with the police, they put it into evidence, but when it came to the trial and the jury, they only used selected pieces of that whole evidence so the jury could see. So it was like, it was a situation I wish not even my worst enemy to be in. It's a situation I wish I wasn't even in. But, you know, that's just the way, you know, how the system chooses to, you know, they felt like they had authority over me, is they felt that they said, like, I'm going to tell you you're a killer. I'm going to tell you you're a murderer and you did this, you know, and I obviously, like, you know, I'm coming from a state of shock where I had just lost a few friends who had been attacked, like Samaya, that year and stuff like that. And I've seen, you know, abuse firsthand, as well as to other trans on the corner. So like, for them for them just to like purposely like try to mute me and then say like, this is what you have to accept. Like I wasn't accepting it. I wasn't having it.
I want to thank you so much for your just tender and brave honesty, Moka, and, you know, truthfully, just how you are sharing your narrative. You are a storyteller, and you are a storyteller with a force to be reckoned with. And I just want to ask a bit of a follow-up question, if you're okay with that, in terms of some stuff you just shared. And I'm thinking about, you know, in terms of rewriting the narrative and that struggle that was evident, that we saw a bit in the film, and of course you shared today, you know, as you kind of continue to note, there's such a tender-heartedness that we get to embrace and witness from you, in terms of not wishing this on your worst enemy, not wanting, you know, your attacker's mother to go through more pain. And, you know, you are such a considerate human, and we know that folks who go through this, we never wish this on other folks. We never want folks to endure pain. That is not what we want to see in abolition futures, right? We don't believe in the way that institutions, the police, traditional social work institutions, even ripping away kids from their homes. Like, we don't want that. We don't want pain. We want to work towards healing. And I want to ask, in that kind of sense, Moka, as you have continuously kind of sought to rewrite those narratives in your advocacy work, you know, how else do you strive to kind of rewrite, you know, not just that narrative that you've gone through, but just your life narrative? Like, what moving forward excites you about engaging in this work? What about moving forward today, moving forward, you know, what do you focus your time and energy investing in? Because I'm so curious on that note, because I love the story we're witnessing, and it's a real story. This is your story. This is your livelihood. So how are you envisioning where your story is taking you next? I'd love to know.
Taking me next, I don't know. You know, the future always holds wondrous possibilities. So for me, I am hoping something in God's will for me. One thing that grounds me is I am a Christian. People think it's kind of weird, like, you're a tranny and a Christian. Yes, I'm a Christian tranny. And I do believe in God, and that is my foundation, and that's what saved me. And that's something that I really try to execute in my everyday life, is to, you know, I've been through a situation and God delivered me from that situation. And, you know, knowing and, you know, being in a life that, you know, I could see where people fall very easily. You know, it's just, I just want to extend that love that he's given me. I just want to use my body, my vessel, to really just hold God's love and put that in towards the community. So people could feel like, you know, people could see that, you know, God's work comes from more than just a church. And, you know, his love comes from a diverse range of people. It just doesn't come from heterosexual people. You know, the word of God is never meant to be dismantling. So if someone ever uses the word of God to dismantle you, know that they're not actually teaching you the word of God, but their own selfish will for what they want to see and perceive of you. So with that being said, that's the love and that's the energy that I put in towards my community, towards you all, you know, to make sure, you know, whoever's, you just never know what situation, who could encounter what, but you know, as long as there's some protection out there and, you know, there's some awareness and stuff like that, we're moving forward to a better future. And that's all I could really ask for.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you so much for your beautiful response. And you really brought up themes of mutual aid, and it made me think about how mutual aid is, you know, supporting your communities in the way that the state has failed to do so. And you do a lot of that, but you also put in what you get out of that. And your community has always been there to support you. Jay, I know you have some thoughts on this, and I'll let you share yours as well.
Sure. I guess, I mean, in terms of mutual aid, you know, and I, you know, respect and acknowledge that we're in a university context, and also, you know, and I'll take the hit myself in this say, fuck the university. I said it. Like, this is still also a punitive institution that does what it does to its students who have to endure all the brunt work. I'm not even going to get into the context of my own personal stuff with the faculty of social work, but I love them. I love what I study, but also, oh my goodness, this is hard. So in any case, you know, for mutual aid, I want to see it as more like a value system and ethos. And I just want to reflect with a big quote that I take away from Lila Watson, who is a Muri Indigenous Australian activist who this quote for me is timeless. I sit and I ground myself with a lot, because this to me in practice, I don't care what academics have to say about mutual aid. I want to hear about what people on the front lines, on the grounds have to say about their experiences and why they do this. And I try to ground myself a bit with what Leela Watson, again, she's a Miri activist from Australia, also colonial territory. And she says this: if you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come here because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. And just, oof. I got chills just saying that out loud myself.
Could I comment on that quote?
Please, please.
I feel like it's a little bit brokenhearted. Because I feel like, she's like, if you're just here for me, then forget it. But if you're here because, you have some type of tie to me, well, let's get you free. But yet she still remains brokenhearted. You know what I'm saying? So it's beautiful to see the love that she will put into care for other people, but like the love there for herself also needs to be threaded in,
Thank you. And we're, of course, always adding to these conversations and adding to knowledge. And Moka, thank you for addressing that bravely. And, of course, and I think, especially when we talk about QTBIPoC folks and all of our different dynamics, even, hurt people, we are oftentimes people leading with trauma, leading with harm, who've gone through just everything and back. And I know that it's so hard also to lead with that self-compassion and tenderness. And I myself seek that journey so tenderly. But I just want to thank you so much, Moka, for bringing that nuance forward, because it's too important and we can't forget that. And I'll let Kafia address the question. Sorry, Moka, you had something to say.
No, I was gonna say we must remember to strengthen those who strengthen us. That's how the reverberation of love spreads around quicker.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Moka. And as your film highlights, queer and trans people of color routinely sought to address the harms outside of the prison industrial complex. What are some strategies for #Justice for Moka employs to redress systemic violence and harm?
Some directions Justice for Moka is taking, you're asking, sorry?
Yeah, so what are some strategies that Justice for Moka is taking to employ to redress systemic violence and harm?
By keeping the story on the front lines, by really, being a vocal and a visual advocate in this manner, as well as, also engaging with community and doing anything I can really to support community. And, not only like give knowledge, in ways of dealing with certain situations, to say like if you get arrested from the police, or if you're put in a situation and you don't want to call the police, like like how do you kind of maneuver those things? So yeah, some of the strategic work that Justice for Moka has been doing is really working with community organizations and getting an understanding of what these community organizations offer, and then at the same time where they are developing in growth to better serve the community as well, and then connecting those resources on the same page so everybody has an understanding, so community protects community.
Thank you so much, Moka. And, I have to say that, keeping that story on the front line, and I can say when Kathy and I were talking to each other on the phone last night, I was opening up about my own kind of survivor narrative that I couldn't help but feel connected to. Truth be told, and not to go too deep into it, I just recently moved from Edmonton to Toronto to flee violence myself out of some stalking behaviors that just got out of hand. And, I think our communities all know too well in terms of survivor narratives. They're too common in our community. They're too common for folks who carry the brunt of the margins that we're placed by. And by no means do I want to compare my survivor narratives to that of yours, right? And I just want to say that for me, one thing that really just spoke a lot of truth last night was just how, you know, which I have to quote Kafka for this, you know, like resilient and yet, you know, fuck the word resilient, because that exploits us at the same time, and labor that we invest in. But those strategies and those moments of hope and of tenderness that you still offer as a result is just one of those things that for me as a, you know, survivor of sexual violence just places me in a really cared for opportunity. And I want to jump back a little bit to that kind of, you know, revolutionary circle of love that you kind of talked about in that way. And can I ask you, Moka, to expand a little bit on that? You know, what does it mean to find and be held in love in our communities? What does it mean to invest in that love?
You know, I think that's a very sad question to ask. And the reason why is because you see, you know, the connellistic effect still to this day in cultural deterioration and race deterioration. And, you know, here we are forced to be in a white system where it's not really our culture, but adapt to it, where we kind of we kind of lose our own roots of like how to really appreciate one another, know what appreciation is, because you're kind of forced, you know, genetically, you know, I love genetics, sorry. But you're kind of forced, yeah, you are kind of like, you know, it's part of the genetic trauma for Black people, is because you're forced to be around these people, you're forced to like these people, you're forced to fight your way in. So like you're forced to find a way of even ground where you know, you're always thinking, okay, well maybe if I do this might be a little better, and you think like that's an implementation of love, but it's really just, you know, a strategic maneuver in order to survive properly. So, you know, the caring factor and stuff like that, for me, I believe it really comes from the home. It's something that, you know, you have a lot of education on, and academic curriculums on, you know, emotional intelligence and psychology of emotions and stuff like that. But you never realize, you know, in any of the textbooks, they never teach you about love. They never teach you about happiness. You know, this is white man brainwash. You go into the class happy and educated to learn, and then you're ending up like kind of depressed because you're just self-diagnosing yourself with a whole bunch of things. So it's for me, I learned the real power of love from home, from my family. Even though, you know, every family has their secrets in their Pandora box, okay? But you know, it was just really like holding on to that, and then implementing that love, like really using the scriptures and loving your neighbor. So learning what you learn from at home and taking that love that you learn from at home and loving your neighbor in that sense. And then from there, it just grows and prospers, because the way one person could love another person is different from another person, but yet that's a evolution of love, because it's a learning of, wow, like that's how you care for me. Well, I want to mix this with how I care for you, you know, and it just prospers in that sense. But yeah, did I answer the question correctly?
Yeah, I think you did. And, you know, I really think like we talk about this a lot, but, you know, as QTBIPoC people, we experience a lot of things, and, you know, we hold on to anger, but I feel like healing is learning how to love. And I kind of think about how Toni Morrison says that racism is a distraction. You know, it tires you out, it exhausts you. And we're always exhausted because we're thinking about, how can I prove this person wrong? How can I prove this person wrong? But, you know, we need to choose love instead. And I think love will uplift us. So on that note, I would actually just like to talk about love, but also ask, instead of, you know, as QTBIPoC people, we're always so focused on survival. You know, you even mentioned it just now, but I want you to imagine a future for, like, what do you imagine as the future for queer and trans people of color? And, you know, in a world where anything is possible, like, what are your hopes and aspirations?
To be honest, it's just full equality. Like, unfortunately, I don't think that's something that could be established, just due to the fact that it's like it's a colonialistic state that is trying to induce equality. So it's kind of weird. I don't know how they're gonna fix it. It's a lot. There's a lot there too. You know, it's very weird. But you know, the future. If you look at, like, you know, the BIPOC community, the trans community, we're the last community to see reparations for you know, the humane injustices that we've been through. You know, for a century, still happening to this day. You know, due to colonialistic affairs. And I guess the only thing that I could say right now as of this point is, you know, a better future for me would just be, there's no more judging. We're not here to judge one another. There shouldn't be no judgment. There should be no animosity held towards someone just due to the color of their skin or something you heard of these things. A better future for me is, you know, alleviation of those things, and you know, an ameliorate to the you know, to the barriers that have been put in place for no reason. So yeah, you know, that dream for full inclusion is still real, but I'm really doubtful if it's actually possible. But I'm still hoping for it. But that's what it looks like for me.
And thank you for being bluntly honest, right? And I reflect on, you know, some scholarship, but even just what community says, right? And when we think about, you know, diversity and inclusion, even, for example, you know, just exploring that topic, you know, it's still diversity and inclusion on the master standards, on the standards by our white colleagues, white institutions. You know, part of me is always, you know, as a social worker, thinking about jobs in the future, for example. And let me just say quickly, social workers do not get a free pass in, you know, perpetuating violence. We are also an extension of the police state and the arms, as much as we try to dismantle it. Abolition of prisons and systems also means abolition of social work, at least in the way that it's been established. Is it still a part of that colonial project? I just have to acknowledge that first and foremost. But going back, you know, looking at like equity, diversity, inclusion jobs, and it's like, okay, you know, you're going to put through some people of color to brunt the work, to overtire themselves, and also to engage in labor that no one is willing to actually invest in, rather than to check a box, right? Because some white man with a pocket of money or a budget line said, I guess we can invest in this. And, you know, it's always that question of like, okay, diversity and inclusion by Justin Trudeau standards, by Doug Ford standards, by Jason Kenney standards, that's the reality of it. I know, and I have those hesitations myself about investing in so-called diversity and inclusion, only because it just reasserts that we should be grateful that we were given a seat at the table, you know, which Solange in her album, Seat at the Table, really challenges that notion, right? But I guess as I kind of digress on a bit of a rant here, you know, and I know my hesitations about future building, I'm still and always forever bitter, but still eager, right? Because our communities invest in one another to see ourselves, even if it is through these so-called systems, right? We still have to see ourselves at the platform and investing in ourselves. And, you know, I guess I wonder if I can ask as a question, you know, what kind of keeps you going in this work, in supporting other folks and other folks who invest in you, you know, what keeps you going in terms of building hopeful futures that our people, your people rightfully deserve?
To be honest, it's God, you know, it's Jesus, it's the power of the blood that keeps me moving. You know, one thing, like when you take in your scriptures, I'm just gonna give like a little basic knowledge, but when you really take in your scriptures and you understand on the spiritual mindset, you get a unknown strength that you didn't think that you could possess inside, when you allow God to come into your heart. And for me, it's really thinking about, when you watch Jesus when he came to earth, and it talks about how they beat him till he was unrecognizable, and he still needed the strength to carry the cross. They still made him carry the planks of wood on his back. So when you think of like, it's he says, blessed are those who believe, who see, than those who, anyways, he says whoever didn't see, blessed are them. Okay. And and it's like when you actually think of that, and you need a sense of strength. You think like, this is one person and this is the love. This is the love. You think the courts couldn't find nothing bad against him. Even the churches rose up against him. The different communities rose up against him. He traveled, from place to place preaching the word of God. And all he did was go to love these communities and to strengthen them. And that's, it's just, when you turn around and you kind of see that, the revelation of Christ into your life, because, you are an image of God. And when you take it into that sense and you just say, Lord, like, I can't go on no more. Like, I felt beat down before, especially by the police, by the system. Like, I've had my shit tapped, my phone tapped, my computer tapped, for no reason, because I spoke up politically. You know what I'm saying? And it was against what they said. I actually brought awareness to a danger that they were posing. It's just like, those are the things, like, when I feel like I'm beat up in that sense, like, I just remember Jesus, and I'm like, yo, on a real thing, like, that's some real hood strength, like, for him to, like, keep moving forward, and, like, still having to carry, the planks of wood, and then have to get beaten some more and then nailed down to it's crazy. Because when we put that imagery in our head, we only think of what the media had projected in it. But when we actually take in the word, like take the book itself and read it, and it says, like, how they actually beat him, the factual evidence of it, it's hard. It's really hard. So that's the strength that I hold on to, is, Christ and all that he's been through. And I just, I use the power of the blood every time I'm feeling down.
Yeah, I guess my only follow-up question would be is, do you have a specific Bible verse that you refer to when times are tough, or is there anything that keeps you going and motivated?
There is 2 Corinthians, I think it's 8, 2 Corinthians chapter 8. I can't remember what verse. I could be wrong. Because I'm really like, I know this words, like I read it, I know the scriptures, but like to tell you where to go in the Bible, girl, I'm the worst one. But I do believe what it says is, do not despise the chastening of the Lord, because the Lord chastens those and corrects those who he loves. So, it just reminds you of the times and when he tells you, like, you're going to see long suffering, but, in the long suffering that you see, that's the point where I need you to lean on me, and I need you to really, feel that power and feel that love that I have for you. And that's what's going to uplift you. And that's what's going to, carry you high and get you through that situation. Because there's nothing that, he won't bring no situation that we can't handle. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So for that, like, that's it. Like, when things happen to me, I just say, Lord, wherever I'm falling and you're trying to correct me, let me know now. Let me go to the word. Let me get to the Bible. Because I pick up my Bible sometimes, like every morning. I read my Bible every morning. And every morning I do some random reading. I just take the Bible and I'm like, Lord, where am I going today? And I just flip the book. And it's funny because it's always so relevant to like what I'm going through or whatever the case may be. So it's always that strength. And even sometimes when I'm angry and I'm upset with people, the word still comes to me where he's like, vengeance is his. And, he just gives me that peace amongst all of that. So it's like, that I just, Lord, anytime I'm falling, just show me where you're trying to correct me, Lord. And I just pick myself up from there.
Thank you so much for that. And, I have to say that I know for a lot of us in queer communities, especially racialized communities, and I'm leaning on my own experience, right? Mocha, I have to say, feels so tender and in such good company. I grew up with my mama, really putting down the word of the Lord and scriptures down. And I know, like, for my own personal sake, I have my own little kind of religious traumas here and there. And I know that our communities do sometimes. And, I just want to acknowledge that and I'll ask something in a bit. I actually want to share, if I may, I know that each and every time that's something that keeps me grounded and connected in kind of wherever I'm at in my complicated faith with the Lord. There's always this Bible verse that I remember when I had night terrors growing up and some of other trauma stuff too. My grandma and I would always read and pray aloud together Psalm 91. I don't know if you're familiar with that one, but it's that one basically that kind of says, I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and fortress. My God, in Him I will trust. You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, or the plague that starts at midday. And I just have to say that I'm just so appreciative of just you sharing your faith and your space here, because it connects me to a lot of tenderness with my own mom in some of those ways. And I know that, spirituality is something that a lot of us are blessed with and have so many nuanced relationships with. And, you can feel free to reject or accept this question if you feel. But I wonder if you have any words for folks, whether it's because they may be reconciling their relationship with their faith or just kind of navigating the world, with those complications. I guess I just wonder if there's any words of encouragement or any thoughts you have in relation to what I just shared. Yeah.
Yes, again, whoever tells you anything about the word of God to disassociate you from Christ is not really preaching the word of God to you, because again, it's supposed to uplift you and bring you together. Sometimes there may be harsh things to accept, but everybody at the end of the day is a sinner, and nobody is walking on this earth 100% purified in Christ. So with that being said, for those who feel disassociated with their spiritual relations to Christ, my suggestion would be, first off, let go of all those things people said to you. Let go of all those feelings, that you harbor because, people have hurt you. Due to it, don't be mad at God. Don't be mad at the word. It wasn't there to hurt you. It was there to strengthen you. Unfortunately, the devil is a real thing, and a thing that's right. And he does have the power to possess and do other things, and really he wants to disassociate you from your true salvation in Christ. And it's at those like really soft, hurtful points where he's going to try to really move your trust away from God. This is where we see like a lot of community people falling into the effects of drugs and alcohol to cope with their emotional distress. So just really alleviating yourself of these negative feelings and thoughts that you harbor and what people said, and return back to the word, because the word didn't leave you. That's one thing that I want to tell people. The word didn't leave you. You left the word. You know what I'm saying? The Bible is still there. And it's because people had, persuade you into a belief that it wasn't there to build you up. The word is there to build you up. So the next step, in my opinion, in full healing for those who feel disassociated, is once you let go of those negative things people told you about the word in Christ, go back to the Bible, because the Bible always stayed in the same place. The word of God has always been there. It's never left you. And, I wish you so much love and strength and blessings in the name of Jesus Christ on your integration back to Christ.
Moka, thank you so much. You are embodying such incredible strength, and you know, we're just like, I don't even know. I just want to say we don't even deserve to have you in a conversation. You're just so much tenderness. I invite Jin to kind of transition us into a Q&A, I guess, with our lovely audience who has, you know, not had the luck of being Coffee and I who got to talk to you directly. And like, y'all can be jealous if you want. Like, I will take this in. I'm happy. I'm gonna live my best life. I don't know about you. But it ain't about me and Kafia anymore. And Moka, thank you so much for this tender conversation. Kafia and I will still hang around and also add feedback or work with you on some of these questions, of course. And we're here to guide you and be your peers as well, however you want us to be. But we'll pass on the floor to Jin to kind of transition us into that portion now. But thank you again, Moka, so much.
Thank you.
Amazing. I'd just like to give you a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, and thank you to all three of you for allowing us to be part of this intimate conversation. I mean, it's amazing, and neither of you have met before, right? How it's ended up in this completely unplanned way on this really intimate topic of spirituality. And I love how you approached it from a love and healing perspective, because so often, you know, the dominant narrative is like spirituality, religion, harm queers, right? So it's been really beautiful to hear, you know, what Jesus has meant for you, and to hear you cite Bible verses. So we have 2 questions, and please feel free to continue dropping questions into the Q&A box, which is at the bottom right of your Zoom box. You just click on it, and then it allows you to type in a question. So our first question is by Lou Alives, who asks, from the perspective of someone who's trying to become an ally, if I understand correctly, what are some positive languages, actions that actually help to uplift, validate, and dignify QT-BIPoC lived experiences? And what are some positive actions and behaviors you've experienced by allies, community members, chosen family?
I'm gonna kind of answer the question backwards. So things that I've experienced positive from allyship is, you know, really coming out to support the Justice for Moka movement, and you know, especially following me from jail to from police station to police station. That time, that was very much appreciative. Nobody really had to go out their way to do that for me. So all of that love, all of that care has been received, and it's being emulated back into the community. That's a beautiful experience that I have with allyship. What was the beginning of the question?
So I think that's answered it. You know, some concrete actions, like what's actually been helpful. So people actually showing up.
Oh, sorry, attitudes and languages.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, this is one thing that really, really gets on my nerves, because I've encountered personally, especially in the city of Toronto, people who use, you know, the Justice for Moka campaign or your Black Lives Matter campaign, not another Black Lives Matter campaign, whatever the campaign is. I've seen people use it as an identity project instead of actually having, you know, a humane, cognizant sense of really wanting to be out here and supportive to the community. So my suggestion is, if you are one of those people, because when we go out and when we take to the streets, you know, in real life, like, everybody likes to think that it's going to be peaceful and calm, but people really get arrested. People really get beat by the police. And this is where, you know, stepping up to the front lines is very important. So, you know, to see people like step back when it comes to that, you know, my suggestion for you is just, if you want to act like you're supportive, in that sense, support Black businesses. Definitely donate to Black organizations. You know, there's the phase 1 basketball team in Scarborough that supports the basketball that's Black-led by Wayne Dawkins. I'll say his name. He's my cousin. By Wayne Dawkins. You know, I hate to make that comparison. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want nobody to know. Shh. But you know, he's out there. He's doing his thing for for the Black kids out there. So they're staying out of trouble. They're staying. He's gotten a lot of kids back into school and really focused on a lot of athletic futures for them. Whether it be like being a basketball coach, being a basketball trainer, whether it be, what was the other thing? Whatever, he just works in that industry. So there's that as well. There's also, Freedom School that has already been mentioned. So there's ways that, people could be like, sideline allies the way how they like to be in a more supportive manner. And those are some of the languages. And
especially for students, it's the temptation is to learn all the PC languages, put it on your CV, right? And then actually the ones benefiting from it, are not the ones who are going through it. So the second question is by an anonymous attendee. Hi, I'm an Asian Canadian woman, and I'm also a queer who experienced discrimination inside an institution. What will be your advice to have a strong voice for folks who are being discriminated by institutions like colleges?
To always speak up and never be afraid to speak up to the high, never be afraid to go to like the board of directors or the president or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? If you are in a state or in a situation of that much discrimination, and that's a danger. You know what I'm saying? So go to the highest level of who you can go to in that institution. Bring that complaint forward. Don't allow no human resource person to deal with it, because you don't want it to fall through the channels. You want the situation to be dealt with accordingly and timely. So my suggestion for that is, if you experience that, go straight to the top.
And once again, you're modeling your own bravery. Thank you. So there's another question by Ruth, who would like to hear more about what you do to relax, unwind, and recharge. Do you have any advice on how we can take care of ourselves as activists and have fun?
Bible, number one, first and foremost. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all things will be added unto thee. Next is I just started, I got a gym trainer. So I've been working out, and I've been eating healthy. It's been killing me because I miss my oxtail and my jerk chicken, my ackee and saltfish and things. I miss the good food, but I mean, I can still eat fish. Like, I eat fish and chicken breast. But, I miss the good stuff, man. The oil, something, you know what I'm saying? Those are the basic little things. But yeah, so I just really do that to really stay active, motivated, and healthy is what I do.
We've been listening to your podcast, Moka, and we're all like, I'm actually considering buying black soap because of what you said about black soap as, being able to cure everything. And Jay wanted to say something as well.
Black soap, you mean?
I think in one of your podcasts, you said that you like to use it as a self-care thing, and how it's really good for eczema and also hair.
Yeah. Tribal Eye. You get the blessed back soap at Tribal Eye in Kensington Market.
Sorry, Jay.
No, that's okay. I was gonna ask Moka, and this is, as a new settler into Toronto, because the moment you said you miss your oxtail curries and I'm sorry to take us back there. I gotta know, where does one find good jerk chicken? Because the only place I've found good jerk chicken so far is Albert's on St. Clair West. And I know that's not the only place, but like, where would you say is where you get your jerk chicken from? Because I need to know.
Girl, I get my jerk chicken from my kitchen. I know how to cook. Yes, I know how to cook, so I'm in the kitchen whipping up things. But it's so sad. It's really, really sad that there's not a place that I could tell you where serves the best jerk. I know my auntie, she has she makes my jerk sauce. She makes her homemade jerk sauce, and then I get it from her. So that's how I have my jerk food and stuff like that. So I mean, if you guys want some jerk sauce, I could definitely tell my auntie. She'll probably sell them to you guys. But you know what I'm saying? It's homemade and it's great. You want to see it?
Support Black businesses, right?
Support Black businesses. You want to see it?
Please.
I got a sample with me right now.
We're doing it, folks. I love this. And right with a pride flag on the chair, just like, yes, this is the energy.
See my jerk sauce? That's my jerk sauce.
Oh my God, I'm hungry.
And I wish you guys could smell it.
Oh my.
I'm just taking it in. Like, this is real life right now.
I got food. I'm up on my
This makes me wish that we're actually on a kitchen table together.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for embracing pleasure in our witness.
And that pepper in there is tasting nice, boy.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, here we have it.
I'm gonna make the jerk fish or something. Not gonna have it.
Thank you.
Love it. Thanks for like modeling the self-care that you just preached. So we have a few more questions. We also have some praise from YouTube live stream that Susanna is going to read out in a minute, and we have 10 more minutes, and then I'm just gonna hand back over to Jay and Kafia and Moka to say some final words and wrap up. But yeah, Bria would like to know, what is your understanding of transformative justice?
It's not
what are the themes? What are the main themes of transformative justice to you?
It doesn't exist. It's silent, and it's something we hope to accomplish in the future. That's me putting it in the nicest way. My grandma always said, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all. So that's what I have to say about transformative justice. How could you see transformative justice in a conalistic state? It's never gonna happen. So when you, again, like the manipulation, you could see, like, they could say inclusion, they could say diversity, but that's not what they perpetrate to the public. So, I mean, here's the hoping.
Mm-hmm. They say it's going to take many generations, right? So we have time for
generations. If you really want to look at it, as the colonialistic root of our suppression and oppression is the British Empire, which still holds authority over Canada, even though Canada claims to be independent. So until that rule over Canada is actually gone, until land acknowledgements are no longer land acknowledgements and actually reappropriations of land given back, you will not see, there's no such thing as transformative. Don't let the white people fool you, eh? Because they fool BIPOC people too. Don't get fooled that they fool Black people, Asian people, all type of people. They fool every type of community. They are manipulative. Okay, so don't be fooled by that. It's true. Don't forget, we are still doing what our ancestors did, eh? We are working through a colonialistic system. We are not in freedom. So it's no theoretical here too on top of that. Yeah.
So yeah, we've run out of time for more questions. Apologies to those who would like to discuss further. So I don't know, Susanna, are there any highlights from the chat, from the YouTube live stream chat that you want to share with us?
Hi, everyone. It's been great to be able to hear your amazing things to be able to say, Moka. Thank you so much. Over on YouTube Live, we have just a little bit of wonderful feedback and comments. Rose Blooms Black says, "This is so healing. Thank you for affirming that the word is here to lift us up." And then especially to do with your jerk sauce. Yes, I want to see it and I can smell it. And I love the jerk sauce ASMR. So that's really, quite amazing. And also Rose Blooms Black again saying, "I'm glad you called out transformative justice as a cop-out and a way to avoid actual justice." So thank you.
Thank you. If you guys want some jerk sauce, you can add me on Instagram at Moka_Dawkins, and I'll get in contact with my auntie for you guys, okay? That's what I'll do. I'll give you my connect, okay?
Yes, we're definitely knocking on her door. So thank you one more time to all three of you. This was a truly beautiful conversation. Jay, Kafia, are there any final words for you? And then you will hand it back to Moka.
Of course. Yeah, I just want to thank everyone who came out to support us today. I also want to thank the team involved in organizing this event. So Susanna, Alan, Jenny, Shanturi, Joanna, Bria, Loris, Najana, and my beautiful co-host Jay. And a big thank you to Jin for being such an encouraging and inspiring instructor. And thank you, Moka, for paving the way and telling us about jerk sauce and spirituality. Like, where are you gonna get that from? Like, you know what I mean? Where you get all of that in one sitting? But also, I just want to add like one last final thing. I want to say, you know, Audre Lorde always says the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. And like you said, we can't keep using these same tools. We got to dismantle them all and we got to make new tools. And people like you are literally paving the way, and I really appreciate all that you've done for us. And because of Black trans women, we are here and we can exist as multidimensional. And I just want to thank you once again. I'm gonna pass it over to Jay now.
It was so brilliantly tender. I think for me, I just want to say, you know, this has been a true honor, and just the amount of reflections you have me sitting in the moment, and to follow from the film to just even just bearing witness to your tea time just now with us. I have to say, you know, I'm sure you could dedicate an entire episode to the pleasures of jerk sauce in tea time in the future, and I cannot wait to witness it on your podcast. We gotta praise your auntie for giving us the goods, and we need to support her labor as well as yours. But I want to, you know, reflect additionally just in terms of, you know, the truths of, you know, transformative justice, you know, and that I sit with, and I kind of look back and I know that regardless of futures, I just know that I need to see other folks like me in leading the movement, those darker than me, those lighter than me, all together, you know, embracing that definitive solidarity that we just know we don't get in the same way now. And I hear you. I cannot imagine things in a world where we're still in a legacy of continuous, you know, colonization, whether I see it or not, right? Like, I'm just sitting with that, you know, move with that and reflect. But nonetheless, I just know that whatever hope I'm hanging on to, I'm still embracing the fact that Black trans women have continuously paved the way. They always have, they still will. They don't get enough credit. And I just want to thank you just for everything that you have shared, even just in space today, and being unapologetically yourself, because that's what we deserve from you, not to just treat you like some celebrity without any true feeling. So thank you for bringing scripture. Thank you for bringing jerk sauce. Thank you for bringing your radiance, your glow, just everything about you that, you know, the world today was not ready for, and you served it. So thank you so much, Moka.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you for having me. And thank you everyone for coming and attending and listening to me go on and rant on. I really appreciate you guys. And good luck in your studies.
Perfect timing. Perfect timing. So we have more praise in the chat. The organizing, the tech folks are like, such amazing work, team. 73 attendees at the peak, including Zoom and YouTube. Amazing. Jen says, thank you, Moka. I'm so grateful to have been here today. Christy also says, thanks, Alisa. Thank you so much for being an amazing person, Moka. We'll keep you in my prayers. Donnell, thank you for your time and wisdom and joy. And thank you, Jane, Kafia, and Jin for wonderful facilitation. You're very welcome. Ruth, amazing panel. Jess, thank you all so much. And again, the GoFundMe, don't forget to click on it and donate if you can. Anuradha, thank you so much. Gratitude. What a brilliant, beautiful offering today. And thank you, Moka, and to the team. Jay, don't forget to contribute. Definitely. Debbie, thanks for joining us today. So what are you going to do with the rest of your day?
For me, I have my training appointment at 3, and then I have some work in between and after. So that's me and my day.
Okay, enjoy it. All right. Thanks everyone for coming. Take good care. Bye.